My name is Emma, and I'm 28 years old. I live a quiet life in a small coastal town, where the sea breeze always carries a hint of salt and nostalgia. Every morning I wake up early, make myself a cup of tea, and unlock the bookstore below my apartment. The bell above the door jingles softly, echoing through the wooden shelves lined with paperbacks and dust-covered classics. Most days are the same, peaceful and predictable, and that's how I like it. I open the shop at 9 sharp. The first few hours pass quietly, with only the sound of rain against the windows or the faint creak of the old wooden floor. When no customers come in, which happens often, I read. Books are the one constant in my life. They don't leave, they don't change, and they never forget you. My family lives in another city. I call my mother on weekends, and we talk about the weather, her garden, and small things that don't really matter. I tell her I'm fine, that the shop is doing well. She believes me. She always does. My life is small, but it feels safe. Until that afternoon. It was late October. The rain had been falling since morning, and the sky was heavy with dark clouds that pressed down on the little seaside town. The streets glistened with puddles, and the smell of wet earth filled the air. Inside the shop, I sat behind the counter with a cup of tea and an old novel open in my hands. The rain tapping against the window was steady and comforting. There were no customers, only the quiet hum of the clock on the wall. Then I saw him. Across the street, under the dull glow of a street lamp, a man stood in the rain. He wore a long black coat and held an umbrella that looked older than he was. He wasn't moving, just standing there, looking straight at the bookstore. No, not at the store. At me. Something cold brushed against my spine. For a long moment we just stared at each other through the rain-streaked glass. His face was hard to see, shadowed by the brim of his hat. But there was something unsettlingly familiar about him, something that made my heart beat faster. Then a car passed between us. And when it was gone, he was too. I blinked at the empty street. The spot where he had stood was vacant, only rain falling softly onto the pavement. That night I couldn't sleep. I kept replaying the image of him standing in the rain, motionless, watching. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw his silhouette framed by the storm. I told myself it was nothing, just a passerby taking shelter. But the thought wouldn't leave me. The next afternoon, the rain returned. I made my tea, turned the sign to open, and tried to lose myself in a book. But my eyes kept flicking toward the window, and at 3 o'clock, I saw him again. Same place, same coat, same umbrella. This time I froze completely. My breath caught in my chest. I wanted to go outside to ask who he was and what he wanted, but I couldn't move. Fear and curiosity tangled inside me. Then, just as before, he was gone. He came back every day that week. Each time it rained at the same hour, he appeared. Always in the same spot, always silent, always watching. On the 5th day, I couldn't take it anymore. I threw on my coat, stepped outside, and walked toward him. The rain soaked through my shoes and plastered my hair to my face. But the moment I moved, he turned and walked away. "Wait," I shouted. My voice sounded small against the roar of the storm. He didn't stop. I hurried after him, splashing through puddles, my heart racing. He turned down a narrow alley between 2 buildings. I followed, but when I reached the corner, he was gone. The alley was empty. No footprints, no doors, no windows, just wet stone walls and the echo of my own breathing. That night, I dreamed of the sea. Waves crashed against dark rocks, and the rain fell harder than ever. I stood by the shore shivering, the salt air burning my throat. Then I saw him again, standing a few feet away, his coat fluttering in the wind. He smiled. And when he spoke, his voice was deep, soft, and filled with something I couldn't name. Emma. My name, spoken like a memory, like a promise. I woke up gasping, heart pounding, my sheets damp with sweat. My hands were trembling. How did he know my name? The next few days passed in a blur. I dropped books, miscounted change, oversteeped my tea. Customers gave me odd looks when I forgot their orders. I barely slept. Then one evening the rain returned. I sat by the window of my apartment, looking down at the quiet street. The light from the lamppost shimmered on the wet pavement. And there he was, standing beneath the same light, looking up at me. Without thinking, I ran downstairs and out the door. The cold air hit my face. My shoes splashed through puddles. My breath came out in quick white clouds. He didn't move. When I reached him, he smiled softly. "Hello, Emma," he said. His voice was exactly as I remembered from the dream. "Who are you?" I whispered. He looked at me with eyes full of sadness. "I've waited for you." "Waited for me?" I frowned. "But I don't know you." "Yes, you do." Then he reached into his coat and pulled something out, a small, faded photograph. He handed it to me carefully, as if it were something fragile. I looked down. My hands began to shake. It was a picture of me, but not me. My hair was longer, my clothes old-fashioned, and beside me stood the same man, younger, smiling. On the back of the photograph, a date was written in elegant ink. 1923. "This isn't real," I whispered. He shook his head gently. "You don't remember, but I do." Before I could speak, he reached out and touched my hand. His fingers were warm, alive. "You will," he said softly. Then he was gone. I stood there in the rain, frozen. The photograph trembled in my fingers. My heart beat so fast it hurt. Back in my apartment, I locked the door and sat on the bed, staring at the photo under the dim light. My mind spun with questions that had no answers. Who was he? How did he know me? Why that year, 1923? I rubbed my temples, trying to think rationally. Maybe it was a trick. Maybe someone found an old photo of a woman who looked like me. Maybe he was insane. But when I closed my eyes, I saw flashes, memories that weren't mine, a garden by the sea. A stone bench, laughter, a man's hand brushing mine, his voice whispering, "Emma, wait for me." I gasped and opened my eyes. My hands were trembling. This was madness, and yet deep inside something stirred, something that felt like remembering. A week passed without rain. The man didn't appear again. The sun returned, painting the town gold. But the quiet that had once comforted me now felt suffocating. Every night I dreamed of him, the sound of waves, the scent of salt and flowers, the whisper of my name in the wind. Finally, I couldn't take it anymore. One evening, I put on my coat, slipped the photograph into my pocket, and started walking. I didn't know where I was going, only that I had to follow something unseen. My steps led me through narrow cobblestone streets, past the harbor, until I reached the cliffs overlooking the sea, and there, nestled among wild roses and ivy, was a small garden. A stone bench stood in the center, worn smooth by time. My breath caught. I had seen this place before, in dreams, in flashes of memory. I walked closer. The wind whipped my hair across my face. When I touched the cold stone of the bench, a shiver ran through me. Then I heard it. A voice. Emma. I turned. He was there, standing a few feet away, his coat moving gently in the wind, eyes soft and full of sorrow. You, I whispered. He nodded. You're real. I told you, he said quietly. Tears blurred my vision. Who are you? He stepped closer, his eyes never leaving mine. You loved me once, he said. A long time ago. I shook my head, my throat tight. I don't remember. He reached out and took my hand, and then it all came back. The world around me blurred and shifted. The gray sky turned bright. The garden bloomed with sunlight and roses. The sea shimmered blue. And beside me stood a younger version of him, smiling. His name was Daniel. We had met here, in this same seaside town, more than a century ago. I was 20 then, full of dreams and laughter. He was kind, gentle, with eyes that carried both light and sadness. We met every evening by this bench. He read poetry. I brought tea. We talked about books, the sea, and the future. He promised we would leave this town someday, travel the world, build a small house by the coast somewhere far away. We were in love. Then, one stormy night, he went out to sea to help a friend. The waves were violent, the wind merciless. His boat never returned. For the rest of my life, I waited. I never married, never moved away. I spent my days sitting on this same bench, watching the sea, hoping the waves would bring him back. When I died, I was still waiting. The vision faded. The garden grew gray again. I looked up at Daniel, tears running down my cheeks. It's you, I whispered. He smiled sadly. It's me. I wanted to speak, to ask how this was possible, but no words came. Some love never ends, he said softly. Some love finds its way back, no matter how much time passes. I reached up and touched his face. His skin was warm, solid. Real. Are you real? I asked. He smiled. As real as your heart remembers me. I closed my eyes, feeling his hand brush against my cheek. The sea wind surrounded us, carrying the faint scent of rain. Is this our second chance? I whispered. He didn't answer. His eyes told me everything, and I knew. The moment was all we had. I woke in my bed to the sound of seagulls and the warmth of sunlight through the curtains. For a moment, I thought it had all been a dream. But then I saw it, on the nightstand beside me, the old photograph. I picked it up with trembling hands. On the back, beside the faded date 1923, there was something new, words written in fresh ink. I will always find you. A single tear fell onto the paper. I smiled through it, because I knew he would.